welcome, welcome. We are getting live right now. Here we go. Welcome everybody to Career Lab Wednesday. I'm your host, George Miller. I'm here almost every Wednesday. I've been gone a few over the holidays. I hope that everybody had fun adventures over the holiday or deep rest over the holiday. Whatever it was that you wanted, I hope that you were able to take time for yourself. Now, we are going into a new year, 2026. Oh my goodness. It seems incredible to me, and there's so much going on in this world that there's a lot of unknowns. And yet we all have things that we want, things that matter to us. And there is something about this new year where a lot of people instinctively say, okay, what did I do last year? What didn't I do last year that I want to do? And what's it going to take? What can I do this year that will really have me being who I want to be? And so that's what we're going to dig into today. Now, as I'm doing that, as I'm sharing some stuff here, I want to set the context for everybody who's viewing in. You are welcome to jump in directly here. There's a Zoom link. You can, if you want to do that, go for it. Do know this is being live streamed. So if you want to remain anonymous, stay off video, or simply type questions that you have into the comment section. And I will do my best to answer your questions just by looking in the comments. And this actually works out great. I've been doing this for years now. And if I'm answering a question and it's not quite in the direction that you want, I'm not really addressing what you wanted to know more about, then put that in there. Let me know. Keep me updated. Let me know if I am responding to your needs accurately. And there's a few ways you can do that. If you're on LinkedIn or on YouTube, type them into the comment section. Or again, you can jump in directly here on Zoom and type into the chat. So I'll say that a few more times as I'm getting going here. But I want everybody to know right from the outset, you don't have to try to stay on topic. If you've got a question that has nothing to do with goal setting and neuroscience behind how goal setting plays out in our lives, if you have a question about interviewing or about managing your team or relationship with your boss or anything career related, anything having to do with you and your job, feel free to ask that question. I will do my best to answer it. If I can't answer your question, I will, maybe I'll be able to send you in the direction of somebody who can, since I'm in this space and I've got a lot of contacts who help people develop in their careers. So any question is fair game. You don't have to try to stay on topic with what I am talking about. So go ahead, ask any question at any point. So one of the things that I want to address first in talking about New Year's goals is that most people do not follow through with their resolutions. I certainly, for years, I didn't even pay attention to trying to have resolutions. And then when I started trying to have resolutions, sure enough, by the end of January, if I even remember that I set goals, I wasn't doing them. So it's been quite a skill for me to learn of how to actually set goals and see things through. This is not easy. And it's cool. I've been seeing a lot of people posting on LinkedIn and social media and stuff about just how challenging actually setting goals is. And I appreciate that's a conversation that there's a zeitgeist talking about just what the challenges are. So I want to start off with some research from Kahneman and Tversky. They discovered how we make decisions and what we do when things are challenging. And so if you're paying attention to the news at all, you're paying attention to what's happening in the job market and all kinds of things, it's going to be no surprise to you to think that this is going to be a challenging year. This is going to be significantly challenging as things in the world are changing and changing quickly. And so there's a lot of unknowns. And what Kahneman and Tversky discovered in their Nobel Economic Research Prize winning material is that we have a negativity bias, that we will likely make irrational decisions that will actually create the thing we don't want to create. And the reason we do this is because at least that's known. So if I'm trying to grow, if I'm trying to develop myself in new ways, I've got things I want to do, things that are important to me. However, I have an evolutionary system that wants to maintain things, that wants to stay the same. And if I am not conscious of that, I am not going to be as effective in realizing my dreams. So to understand that my system, the system of George Miller, does not want to change and is going to do what it can to stop me from learning and growing, to stop me from having more of the things that I want in my life. So why is it that way? For safety reasons. It's how we got here. We're automatically able to assess risk without even thinking about it and say, nope, not going there. And I'm going to keep things the same because that is what's going to have me survive the longest. So we end up, when we're weighing risks and losses, we are more afraid of the loss than we are of gaining things. And so we end up not taking appropriate risks. We end up trying to consolidate and pull in when that's often not the thing to do. And I'm not saying, go out and take a whole bunch of risks, but what are the little risks that you can take that are actually quite safe, that are not going to be detrimental to you? Rather than what often happens is taking a big risk that goes wrong and confirms a lot of limiting beliefs that we all have about ourselves. So an example of this is to take the small risk of doing something slightly out of your comfort zone, like calling people, like picking up the phone and calling someone. Like that is something that anybody can do. There's not going to be harm to that. It's not like that's going to ruin your life. But if you notice, when you go to pick up that phone, there's going to be fear and anxiety. So you're just stretching a little bit into what it takes for you to get the things that you want. Because what happens is that people will not look at the immediate things that they can do, the little things outside their comfort zone, and then they'll end up going all in on something that doesn't really make sense. Because we do want to move, we do want to grow, so we will take some kind of a risk. But the number of times I've done this, oh my gosh, I'm kind of thinking about whether I'm going to talk about it or not. Fine, I'll talk about it. Before I go into sharing a story of how I did this, reminder that you are welcome to ask any question at any time, anything career related. You don't have to try to stay on topic here. So one of the things that I did when I was working with an organization, and I just wanted a lot. I wanted things to grow. I wanted to move things forward, and I was frustrated that things weren't. And so I just went ahead and started an app. And in the moment that I decided to do that, I was like, whatever, this is a move in the right direction. Even if it fails, I don't care, I'm doing it. And it was ultimately not a good idea. It was a good mistake in the direction for me learning and growing about stuff, but I did not have the backing, I didn't have the support, and I didn't there was not it was not really going to work out well. There was no way that it was going to. But what would have been more meaningful and uncomfortable for me at the time would have been to have more conversations within the organization about things I was unsatisfied with. You know, that would have been a more meaningful risk to take. And instead, I kind of, put a bunch of chips on the table and said, all right, I'm just going to risk it. And I've done that kind of thing a lot in my life. And I know better. Like, I know this research, and I'll still do it anyway. So I don't know that, I don't know that not doing what I'm describing is even the goal. But what I can with confidence say is that choosing the small risks will really help. That's where the real work is. And so what are the little things that you can do that help you achieve your goals? So now I want to break this down even more, because when setting goals, a common one is to lose weight. Another common one is make more money. But motivation does not last long in our system. Our brains kind of suck at willpower. We don't have a whole lot of strength there. And so what the science shows is that when I have purpose, when I know what my purpose is in the goal that I'm trying to achieve, that gives me staying power. That gives me, people talk about your why. What's your why in the goal? So got one client right now who just had kids, had another kid, and is realizing that if they are going to be healthy for a lot of key things in their child's life, if they're going to be able to play with them and go on hikes and stuff, that they got to get in shape. They need to do a better job of taking care of their bodies. So that's a powerful why. That is part of their purpose. And see, underneath it, there's a strong emotional response to that. It has to do with community, with relationship. It's not just I'll look better. There's a deep reason for it. So I think they have a better shot of realizing their goal. It's going to be hard, but they have a strong reason to do it. Now, another way that this can play out is, what's it like? What emotional to lose weight is to feel better in my body, is to feel more joy, but it's also going to come with more fear. Because part of why I eat the way that I do is because I'm numbing myself. I'm comforting myself. And so to change that, my system does not want to change that. I'm already surviving. I'm already doing pretty darn well. I go back not that long ago, I'm a grandpa, like about ready to die. So, we're at new spaces in human evolution. So to change that, I have to recognize that I'm going to be really uncomfortable. I'm going to feel afraid. I'm going to I'm going to be experiencing threat by changing how I eat. And when I understand that, and I don't have to make myself wrong for feeling afraid, but I can say, yeah, I understand why I'm feeling afraid about this. Absolutely. wow, I feel afraid about feeling better in my body. I feel afraid about feeling more alive. Yeah. Then I'm getting more accurate data about what's going on with me. And I'm going to be better at anticipating how to actually stay true to my goals. Instead of, again, this kind of fantasy that like, well, here, I bought this online plan, or I downloaded an app, and now this is going to help me realize my goals. Like this is going to help me realize my weight loss goals. Those things can help. I am not dissing apps. I am not dissing this stuff. Absolutely not. I'm just wanting to go in a layer deeper and look at the emotions and the yearnings underneath the goals. Because again, when people say you got to know your why, you got to know your purpose. I want to break it down even further into the emotions and the yearnings that are a part of the things that I want. And so I have a yearning for comfort. And to understand that I have a yearning for comfort and to recognize, oh, wow, the food is only a comfort for a brief period of time. It does bring some comfort, but it also brings numbing. And it's not real comfort. Well, then what are other ways that I'm going to get that comfort? And I talked about making phone calls. That's a big one. I just made a phone call before jumping on here. Something was I was looking at the calendar. I'm working with a university, and I was looking at stuff, and I was like, okay, everything on my screen looks real, but I'm still worried. And so I literally called another professor and said, hey, I'm calling just because I'm paranoid and I don't want to be paranoid. I just want to hear from another person that all this is set up and I'm in good shape. And that was a risk. I felt afraid calling and saying, even though my eyes are telling me that everything's okay, I still feel afraid and I just want some comfort. So I met my yearning for comfort by making a phone call and getting the validation that I wanted. It was not a big deal. And you know what? In that period of time, I noticed myself. In fact, I walked to the fridge, I opened it up, and I just looked in there. Even though I was not going to eat anything. I literally went to the fridge to comfort myself. Oh, guess what? It's not that comforting. So understanding what's going on inside yourself while you're moving towards realizing your goals is an incredibly important thing. Will help you realize your goals sooner and have more staying power with them. So doing something, again, because it's meaningful to you, has more staying power. You could think about it in intrinsic motivation, doing something because it's meaningful, versus extrinsic, like rewards, external pressure. External pressure is not that sustainable. So you're really developing this relationship with yourself more. You're growing. And this is why in Career Lab Wednesday, there's all kinds of helpful things I can get into about how to interview, resume writing, managing, all that stuff. But at the heart of what I do, it's about emotional intelligence. It's about understanding your feelings with more clarity so that you can understand the feelings of the people around you more. Understanding your feelings more with more clarity so that you can inform how you make decisions better, so that you can have more staying power. You're developing that intrinsic power. You are developing your personal power rather than that external stuff. By noticing your emotions more, you are increasing your power, your ability to do the things that you want to do. So let's look at setting goals that are rooted in this more basic, simple risk-taking activity. So this is why everybody wants you to break things down. And it's so helpful to do that. You look at what you want and then work backwards. What does it take to get there? And inevitably, one of the main things it takes to get there is communication with other people. And so when you can look at those communications with other people as being more nourishing, as meeting those deeper yearnings, as being part of the fun, then your journey to that goal, you will be way more effective and it will be way more fun. And you will get the nourishment that you need along the way to really see your goal through. Is the problem of setting a goal and then, part of it is going to be a lot of interaction with people. When that all becomes draining work in your mind, then you're just not going to make it. Like, your system is not strong enough to see it through. And I think that, I know this, but I still act in ways that are like the old model of like, oh, I'm just going to power through. And it just doesn't work. So when you're setting a goal, you break it down into what it's really going to take and look at the interactions that are going to be along the way. Because that will help you a great deal to be aware of, wow, I'm going to have this conversation. I'm going to have to set up these kinds of meetings. And, oh, I'm uncomfortable there. I notice I want to avoid that meeting. Okay, well, then we can address what's going on inside and build things internally, strengthen yourself, strengthen your relationship with your emotions so that when you're going into that meeting, it becomes a generative, exciting, engaging thing as opposed to something to get over, as opposed to something to get through. So that is, high level, what I want you to dig into to realize your goals is what are the feelings you have associated with those goals and what are the deeper yearnings under those goals. And it's not, if all you're saying is joy, oh, I feel good about that. Oh yeah, that's fun. That's great. It's definitely good to feel joy about your goals. And that does help motivation. But I want you to anticipate the other feelings that come with your goals. What are the fears that you have about going for what you want? What are the things that you might feel hurt about? Things that might be upsetting or what you feel angry about or frustrated about in going for your goals. As you let yourself really be with your feelings in that, you're going to be more effective in actually realizing. So that's what I want you to do is take a look at your goals and do an honest assessment of what feelings come up with each of your goals and with the steps that it will take to realize your goals. In doing that, you are mapping out, you're getting a more accurate map of the terrain of what it will take for you to move forward. So we're coming up on the half hour here. Oh my goodness, I can do that. I can just talk without, if I get no questions, I can just go on a rant. So before wrapping up, if anybody has any questions, go ahead, throw them into the chat. You can put them in the comment section on YouTube or on LinkedIn Live. Go ahead and put in any questions that you have, and I will do my best to answer your questions. If not, I'll say there's a few ways that you can engage with me. Of course, you can stay in touch with me on social media through YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram. If you want to see a bunch of ice water stuff, it is ice water time here in Chicago, so I'm posting a lot of that. And if you just want to be entertained, great. But there's also things too where you can use what I'm posting to challenge yourself and your beliefs about yourself in the direction of who you want to become. That's ultimately the reason why I go through the effort of putting stuff out there is some inspiration. And I'm wanting to show that being present with feelings, being present with fear can help you. That is when a core thing when I'm going out into that ice water is I'm afraid every single time. I choose to friend my fear. I stay present with my anxieties. The fears give me a lot of information. I should be afraid. It's ice water. And I'll tell a quick story about this past weekend. So the ice pancakes were down at Ohio Street Beach, and I got word that they were down there. I was like, okay, great, I'm going to go this afternoon. And then by the time I get there, there's a couple of videographers that are running down there too to catch them. And they're like, hey, George, they're moving. The lake is flowing. Ice pancakes are headed north. And so I was like, oh, shoot. So I parked the car down by Ohio Street, and then I'm like running up along the lakeshore path, and I see them in the distance, and I was like, oh, cool. It looks like I might be able to like just jump off the edge of this ledge here and get on them. Great. Now, I pay attention to my fear. I'm like, oh, wonderful, I can handle this. But I feel afraid, and I should feel afraid. It's incredibly dangerous. And I look at the ladders, and the ladders are all covered in ice. I literally cannot get my hands on the bars. So I'm going to be stuck down there. It's too far of a reach from the waters. Like I can't just climb up. Now, if it was really cold, like 15, but it needs to be more like 10 degrees, then I could get water on my gloves and like put my glove on the wall, and it would freeze there, and I could pull myself up that way. But it's not that cold. It was warm. It's above freezing. So that's not going to work. So I pay attention to my fear, and I realize, no, I cannot just get in the lake here because I don't have a way out. The closest way out is going to be quite a swim around the corner. I would be able to make it. You know, I've been in the ice water long enough. I know that I could make it, but I would really be pushing it. And I do not want to be causing a scene. And I don't want to take that risk. That's a risk not worth taking. So I'm paying attention to my fear. And then I was so happy with this outcome. So we keep going though. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I can get in the water at Oak Street Beach. And maybe I'll be able to get in there and safely get out to some of the ice cakes. Oh, the other thing is I did not know if the ice cakes were secure enough for me to stand on. If they were frozen solid, I would have been able to step down onto them and, you know, have fun, run around. And I would have been able to climb, like push one over and climb back up and get safely back onto the bike path. But I didn't know that they were. So again, I paid attention to my fear. So anyway, go around the corner and there's Oak Street Beach. And I'm like, oh, great. I think I can get in there. But then I was like, oh no, now I'm going to get in the lake. And once I'm in there, and I plan to be in for a while, I'm going to get really cold. And my car is not nearby to get into, and I'm going to have to walk back over a mile. I was like, so this is something I know I could do it, but I would definitely be pushing the limits at this point. And, you know, that's not my intention. I'm not trying to set a world record here. I'm trying to have some fun and run around in some ice pancakes if I can. And then I see that there's Oak Street Beach sauna. And I was like, oh my gosh, how perfect is this? And if I jumped in earlier, I would not have known that that was right there. So the fact that I paid attention to my fear and just kept going ends up bringing me to a space that's really going to help. And I run in, I meet Paul, and he's like, sure, yes, I will. I'll make sure to stay open a little extra so that you can be tended to, so you can warm up in here. So that way I was able to get in, go out, and sure enough, those ice pancakes were not solid enough. I could not get up on them. So if I had jumped in earlier, I would have been in quite a sticky situation. I think I would have survived it, but it would have been dangerous. And so my whole point in telling this story is that your fear is important. There's good reason for everybody to be afraid. Now, what we're afraid of most of the time, when we're really honest about it, we don't need to be afraid of it. Just like me making a phone call. It's like, if I'm honest, I feel afraid doing it. But I don't really need to feel that afraid. That doesn't need to, my fear does not need to stop me. My fear just highlights what I want to pay attention to. Okay, so I hope that's helpful. I hope that's a good story to leave you with. There's ways you can stay engaged with me, again, on social media. You can set up a one-to-one time with me. I understand that this is not anonymous, and so if you want just some straight feedback, maybe some clarity in what you're doing in your career, set up a call with me, 15, 20 minutes. I can often help people get clarity about their next moves, and are grateful for that. And if you're looking for something more, if you've got a bigger project in mind, we can discuss that as well. We can look at what a coaching relationship might be. So set up some time with me, and I'll be staying in touch. I'll be back next week. Until then, blessings, everyone.